The morning sky above downtown Atlanta was the color of polished steel, heavy with the promise of rain. Harrington and Coal Industries' glass tower rose through the clouds like a monument to ambition. 60 floors of chrome, light, and quiet fear. Inside its marble-lined lobby, cleaners worked silently, erasing the traces of yesterday's triumphs and tantrums before the executives arrived. Aisha Bennett wrung out her mop beside the revolving doors. She moved with unhurried precision, earbuds in, humming low to a rhythm only she seemed to know. Her uniform hung neatly on her tall, lean frame. Her gloved hands betrayed none of the small scars that mapped her past. To most who saw her, she was invisible, another night shift ghost who appeared at dawn and vanished by noon. The elevator chimed, spilling a burst of chatter and perfume. Victoria Cole stepped out, trailed by her assistants like a comet's tail. At 42, Victoria carried herself with the poise of someone accustomed to command. Her platinum hair was a sharp contrast to the navy of her power suit, her heels a metronome that kept everyone in step. "Where's the broadcast team?" she barked. A junior staffer stammered about cables and sound checks. The CEO's jaw tightened. Today was her quarterly investor address, streamed live across continents, and she tolerated neither delays nor imperfections. She swept past the cleaning cart, eyes scanning her reflection in the lobby's black marble. Her assistant, juggling a tablet and latte, stumbled. Coffee splashed across Victoria's sleeve. Gasped. Aisha reacted before anyone else, pulling a towel from her cart and stepping forward. "Here, ma'am," she began softly. Victoria snatched her arm away. "Don't touch me," she snapped, her voice echoing. "You worry about floors, not fashion." The assistants tittered nervously, eager to signal allegiance. Aisha's smile stayed gentle, unflinching. "Of course, ma'am. Floors are what keep you standing." For half a second, something flickered behind Victoria's eyes, irritation edged with discomfort, but she turned on her heel, leaving only the scent of expensive perfume and embarrassment hanging in the air. Hours later, thunder rolled over the city. The broadcast had ended badly. A software glitch froze her slides mid-presentation. Reporters murmured. Investors frowned. By the time Victoria descended to the lobby, the day had soured beyond repair. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one inside her chest. Aisha was still there, mopping near the security desk, her earbuds gone now, humming replaced by silence. The cleaning staff had clocked out, but she stayed to finish polishing the entryway, the kind of small integrity that no one noticed until it was gone. Victoria's heels clicked across the marble. She stopped beside the cleaner, arms folded. "Why are you still here?" she demanded. "Finishing up, ma'am. Rain's bringing in mud from the sidewalk." "I don't pay overtime for unnecessary perfection," Victoria snapped. "Clock out. Now." Aisha straightened, meeting the CEO's eyes. There was no defiance, only calm composure. "With respect, ma'am, it's not about pay. Just pride in work." The phrase struck Victoria like sandpaper. Pride in work. She heard it as insolence. Around them, a few late-shift employees slowed their pace, sensing spectacle. Victoria felt their eyes and, with them, her own authority trembling. She needed to reassert control. "You think pride replaces orders?" she said coldly. "You're done here, Ms. Whatever your name is." The security guard at the desk shifted uneasily. "Ms. Cole, maybe just a warning." "Do it?" She cut him off. "Terminate her contract effective immediately." Silence. Even the hum of the fluorescent lights seemed to fade. Aisha removed her gloves, folded them neatly on the cart, and nodded once. "As you wish, ma'am." Victoria waited for pleading excuses, something to justify the cruelty she'd just dispensed. Instead, she got composure. Aisha turned, handed her ID badge to security, and walked toward the revolving doors. Each step echoed like a metronome of dignity, measured and unbroken. Rain battered the glass as the doors spun her out into the storm. She paused under the awning, tucking a stray braid behind her ear. Water beaded on her cheeks. It was impossible to tell whether any of it were tears. Her eyes lifted to the tower's mirrored facade, 60 floors of light glaring down at her, and she exhaled slowly. Inside, Victoria watched her go, something tightening behind her ribs that she couldn't quite name. Then she turned away, muttering, "Replace her by tomorrow." Outside, thunder cracked. Aisha walked into the rain, the city swallowing her silhouette. To anyone watching, she was just another dismissed employee. But her gait told another story. The steady rhythm of someone who had marched through worse storms and lived to see calmer skies. The hum of computers echoed faintly through the vast open-plan offices of Titan Edge Technologies, a prestigious software company perched on the 40th floor of a glittering San Francisco skyscraper. After hours, when most employees had already gone home, the building took on a different personality. Quiet, reflective, with the faint buzz of fluorescent lights and the distant rhythm of the city below. In that tranquil space, Ava Cole moved silently between cubicles, her cleaning cart rolling smoothly across the polished floors. She was in her early 40s, African American, with short-cropped hair threaded with silver. Her uniform was always spotless, her posture upright, and her eyes, sharp, alert, the eyes of someone who noticed everything yet said nothing. She had been at Titan Edge for nearly 3 years. To most, she was invisible, a friendly nod at best, an afterthought at worst. She came in when the executives were leaving, did her work thoroughly, and disappeared before dawn. No one knew much about her life outside these walls, and Ava preferred it that way. But beneath that calm exterior, beneath the gentle rhythm of her nightly routine, there was a history she kept hidden. The scars along her forearms told a story no one asked about. The way she instinctively scanned exits whenever she entered a room was second nature, a reflex born not from habit but from training. She'd once served as a Special Forces tactical operative, a leader in high-risk international missions, until a betrayal during a covert operation left her team decimated and her spirit fractured. Disillusioned, she left that life behind, seeking anonymity. For Ava, cleaning offices wasn't about money, it was about peace, or at least the closest thing to it she could find. Tonight, the air inside Titan Edge was heavier than usual. Rumors of layoffs had been swirling for weeks, and tension rippled through the building like static. Even the janitorial staff whispered among themselves in break rooms and corridors, wondering who would be next. Ava's coworker, Lena Ortega, a bubbly Latina in her 20s, leaned on her mop handle as Ava emptied a bin near the finance department. "Girl, I heard the boss went off on someone again," Lena said, lowering her voice. "The CFO, I think. She said the numbers weren't good enough. You'd think being rich would make her happy." Ava smiled faintly but didn't look up. People with power usually want more of it. Happiness doesn't factor in. Lena laughed softly. "You sound like you've been around people like her before." Ava paused, eyes distant for a moment. "Maybe I have." Lena tilted her head but didn't push. Everyone knew Ava didn't talk much about herself. As they worked, the sound of footsteps echoed from the far end of the corridor, sharp, deliberate. Victoria Steele, Titan Edge's CEO, was doing one of her infamous late-night walkthroughs. A tall, statuesque woman in her 50s, with platinum blonde hair pulled into a severe bun and an air of calculated superiority. Her white heels clicked against the marble tiles, her reflection gliding past the glass walls like a ghost of power. Ava instinctively straightened, her body language respectful but detached. Victoria's cold blue eyes swept over the cleaning staff as if she were inspecting dust on her empire. "Try to be more careful with the polish on the executive conference room table," Victoria said curtly, not even glancing at Ava directly. "It streaked last night." "Yes, ma'am," Ava replied calmly. Victoria's gaze flickered toward her at last, almost with amusement. "You're the quiet one, aren't you? I suppose silence is a useful trait when you're invisible." Ava met her eyes briefly, just long enough for something unspoken to pass between them. Then she lowered her gaze again. "Just doing my job, ma'am." "Good," Victoria said, her tone dripping with the kind of condescension reserved for people she deemed beneath her. "Make sure you do it well. I don't tolerate mediocrity, even from the janitorial staff." And with that, she walked away, her reflection fading into the glass corridor. Lena exhaled sharply once the CEO was gone. "God, what a witch. How do you stay so calm when she talks to you like that?" Ava placed the trash bag neatly into her cart. "Because reacting gives people like her power. I've seen worse than words." Later that night, as Ava finished her shift, she paused by one of the massive glass windows overlooking the Bay Bridge. The city lights shimmered on the water like scattered gold. She watched the horizon in silence, her thoughts drifting to another night long ago. Rain pounding against jungle leaves, the sound of gunfire cutting through the dark, the echo of a voice calling her name before everything went black. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the present. Those days were over. They had to be. But fate has a way of resurrecting what we try hardest to bury. The following week, the tension inside Titan Edge exploded. Victoria Steel announced sweeping layoffs in a company-wide email. Cold, impersonal, and final. Dozens of employees were let go overnight, their access revoked, their careers erased with the click of a button. Ava watched the fallout quietly as she went about her evening routine. She saw the tears, the angry phone calls, the stunned silence. Victoria's rule had always been merciless, but this time, it felt crueler than ever. Still, Ava kept to herself until the night that would change everything. It began like any other shift. Ava was cleaning the executive floor when she heard shouting from Victoria's office. The CEO's voice, sharp and venomous, cut through the quiet. "I don't care what it takes." Victoria snapped. "Find a way to fix this, or you're finished." A moment later, a man in a rumpled suit, probably a department head, stormed out, face red with humiliation. Victoria stepped into the hall, still fuming, and that's when she saw Ava wiping the glass partition. "You there," she said sharply. "Why is this window still streaked? Do you even know how to clean?" Ava turned slowly, calm as ever. "I was just finishing up, ma'am." "Well, finish faster," Victoria hissed. "You people are lucky to even have jobs here." For the first time, Ava's eyes flickered with something dangerous, just for a heartbeat. But she said nothing, setting her cloth down and nodding. "Yes, ma'am." Victoria smirked, satisfied with her dominance, and returned to her office. Lena, who'd seen the exchange from down the hall, rushed over once Victoria was gone. "She's out of her mind. Why do you let her talk to you like that?" Ava gave a faint, knowing smile. "Because one day, people like her learn what respect really means. And that lesson doesn't come cheap. That day would come sooner than anyone could have imagined." For all her arrogance, Victoria Steel's empire was about to collide with something far darker than a disgruntled employee or a bad quarter report. And when it did, the only person who could save her was the very woman she had humiliated. And no one, not even Ava herself, was ready for what was coming. The glass and steel towers of Titan Edge Technologies gleamed in the afternoon sun, but inside, Tension crackled like a live wire. It was the day of the Titan Edge annual gala, the company's crown jewel event, an extravagant showcase of success and excess. The city's elite had gathered in the ballroom of the historic Fairmont Hotel overlooking San Francisco Bay. Investors, media moguls, and politicians all toasting the brilliance of Victoria Steel. To the outside world, Victoria was the embodiment of corporate triumph, an ice queen who'd clawed her way to the top. Inside, however, she was driven by an insatiable fear of losing control, a gnawing paranoia that everyone around her was waiting for her to fail. Behind the glitter and speeches, the catering and janitorial teams worked tirelessly, unseen yet essential. Among them was Ava Cole, dressed in black service attire, her hair neatly tied back. She'd been reassigned to assist with cleanup for the event, an extra shift she hadn't asked for but accepted without complaint. The ballroom shimmered under golden chandeliers. Music played softly as waiters carried trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres through the crowd. Ava moved between tables silently, her posture graceful but alert. Her eyes took in everything: the exits, the crowd flow, the tension in Victoria's shoulders as she schmoozed with city officials. Beside her, Lena Ortega whispered, "Can you believe this? All that money, and she still finds a way to look miserable." Ava gave a faint smile. "People like her don't come to enjoy, they come to conquer." Lena snorted softly. "Well, I hope she chokes on her ego." Across the room, Victoria was in her element. Cameras flashed as she laughed, her diamond necklace catching the light. Every movement was calculated, the practiced wave, the perfect smile. But behind that mask, she was irritated. Her CFO had been slow to finalize a new deal, and rumors of internal dissent had leaked to the press. She needed a distraction, something or someone to remind everyone who was in charge. That moment came sooner than she could have hoped. As Ava crossed the ballroom with a tray of wine glasses, weaving carefully through clusters of guests, a drunken executive stumbled into her path. He bumped her from behind, sending her tray tilting forward, and in an instant, a cascade of red wine splashed across Victoria Steele's pristine white gown. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Time seemed to freeze. Ava blinked, still gripping the tray, trying to steady it before everything crashed to the floor. But the damage was done. The scarlet stain spread across Victoria's dress like spilled blood. Victoria looked down slowly, her face draining of color before flushing bright red. When she lifted her eyes, they locked on Ava. "You," she hissed, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "What have you done?" Ava set the tray on a nearby table, her tone calm and steady. "It was an accident, ma'am. Someone bumped into me." "An accident?" Victoria snapped, her words laced with venom. "Do you have any idea what this dress costs? It's worth more than you'll make in 5 years." A murmur spread among the guests. Some looked away, uncomfortable. Others whispered, eager for drama. Ava stood tall, her expression unreadable. "Again, my apologies, Miss Steele. I'll pay for the cleaning." Victoria's laugh was sharp, almost manic. "Pay for it? You? With what, your mop and bucket?" The crowd tittered nervously. Ava's jaw tightened. Her eyes, calm as ever, met Victoria's. "There's no need to humiliate me. I said it was an accident." That only infuriated Victoria further. The alcohol in her system, the stress of the evening, and the watchful eyes of her peers. All of it fused into a single, destructive impulse. "You're fired," she shouted suddenly. "Right here, right now. You're finished. I never want to see your face in any Titan Edge building again. Do you understand me?" The room went silent. The band stopped playing. Even the waiters froze in place. Ava stood still for a long moment, Then she nodded slowly, her voice quiet but firm. I understand. Good, Victoria said, her lips curling. Get out before I have security drag you out. Ava turned, placing her tray neatly on a nearby cart. She didn't look at Victoria again as she walked toward the exit, her steps measured, her posture unbroken. But those who watched closely, those who had seen her eyes, noticed something cold and calculating beneath her calm exterior. Lena ran after her, whispering urgently, Ava, wait! Don't let her get away with that. Ava turned to her friend, offering a faint, almost serene smile. She just made a mistake she'll wish she hadn't. As the ballroom's whispers swelled, Victoria turned back to her guests, trying to salvage the moment. Some people just don't belong in places like this, she said, forcing a laugh. Now, where were we? But the spell of the evening was broken. Conversations were hushed, glances darted toward her stained dress. The queen had revealed her cruelty, and her audience had seen it. Later that night, Ava returned to the service area to collect her things. She packed her few belongings into a small box. Gloves, a name badge, a photo of her late mother. As she zipped up her jacket, Naomi Carter, the company's black HR director, appeared in the doorway. Naomi's voice was soft but steady. Ava, I'm so sorry about what happened. Ava turned. It's fine, Miss Carter. I knew this job wouldn't last forever. No, Naomi said, stepping closer. It's not fine. The way she treated you was disgraceful. If you want to file a complaint, don't bother, Ava interrupted gently. She'd bury it before anyone ever saw it. Naomi frowned. You're taking this awfully well. Ava gave a faint smile. When you've survived worse than someone yelling at you in designer heels, perspective changes. Naomi hesitated, then said quietly, I don't know who you really are, Ava, but something tells me you're not just a janitor. Ava met her gaze for a long moment. We all have our pasts, Miss Carter. Some just don't fit on a resume. Naomi nodded slowly, sensing she was right. If you ever need a reference or help, call me. Ava picked up her box. Thank you. I appreciate it. As she walked out through the hotel's side entrance, the night air met her face. Cool, briny, filled with the distant hum of the city. The moon hung low over the bay, glinting off the skyline she'd cleaned every night for years. Ava looked back once at the glowing hotel windows, where laughter had already resumed, and whispered under her breath, Let's see how you handle a mess you can't clean up, Miss Steele. Then she walked away, vanishing into the shadows of the city. But fate wasn't done with either of them, because that same night, in the industrial district across town, a very different meeting was taking place. One that would soon drag both women into a deadly storm. Rain lashed the windows of a dimly lit warehouse near the San Francisco docks. The air smelled of salt, metal, and danger. Inside, the low thrum of machinery mixed with the crackle of a nearby radio, its static pulse echoing off corrugated walls. At a long table cluttered with laptops, blueprints, and weapon parts sat Serena Voss, a woman whose beauty was as sharp as the knife she spun between her fingers. Her hair, ink black and blunt cut at the jaw, framed a face that never smiled. Serena was the kind of leader who inspired loyalty through fear. Across from her, half shrouded in shadow, sat Dante Reyes, a lean man with tattoos creeping up his neck and a perpetual smirk. He leaned back, boots propped on the table. They moved the prototype servers to the main tower, he said, tapping a cigarette against the steel table. Security's tighter than ever. Facial ID, pressure sensors, the works. Serena's knife stopped spinning. And the encryption keys? Still inside Titan Edge's private network, Dante replied. We'll need someone on the inside to breach it. Serena's eyes flicked toward the holographic display projected over the table. The Titan Edge logo rotated slowly in the blue light, beneath it lines of code and schematics. Then we find one, she said. The Steel Woman built her empire on other people's stolen ideas. Poetic justice if she loses it the same way. Dante grinned. You really got a grudge against her, huh? Serena didn't answer. She rose from her chair and walked toward the rain-streaked window. Outside, cranes loomed like metal skeletons against the storm. She destroyed my sister's career, Serena said softly. Framed her for embezzlement to save her own name. When my sister took her own life, Victoria Steele didn't even blink. She turned, her expression hard as steel. Now I'm going to take everything she built. Every bite, every dollar, every ounce of control. Dante flicked his cigarette away. Then we'll need muscle, tech, and someone who knows Titan Edge's patterns. Serena nodded slowly. And I think I know exactly who. Across town, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. A modest apartment complex sat tucked between laundromats and corner stores, its walls stained with years of city grime. Inside one of the small units, Ava Cole sat on her couch, a half-empty mug of tea cooling beside her. The television murmured faintly in the background, news footage from the Titan Edge Gala, replaying Victoria Steele's flawless smile as if the public humiliation had never happened. Ava stared at the screen, her reflection dim in the window beside it. She hadn't slept in 2 nights. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the flash of red wine on white silk, the sneer on Victoria's face, the laughter that followed her out of the ballroom. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Ava Cole. The voice on the other end was smooth, controlled. A woman's voice. Who's asking? Ava said. Someone who knows what happened at the Fairmont. And someone who thinks you deserve better than humiliation. Ava's tone sharpened. I'm not interested in revenge. That's good, the voice replied. Because what I'm offering isn't revenge. It's opportunity. A pause. You used to be military. Special forces. Records say you vanished off the grid after a failed operation in Jakarta. Your name was cleared, but you never went back. Why is that? Ava's pulse quickened. Who are you? Someone with the resources to make Victoria Steele pay for everything she's done. To others, not just you. Meet me tomorrow night. Pier 19. Midnight. If you're not interested, don't come. The line went dead. Ava sat there for a long time, the hum of the television filling the silence. She didn't like being tracked, didn't like being remembered, but whoever this was, they knew too much to ignore. She leaned back, eyes fixed on the ceiling, and whispered to herself, What are you getting me into now, Ava? The next night, the docks were shrouded in fog. Streetlights glowed like ghosts in the mist. Ava's boots echoed softly as she approached the rusted gate marked Pier 19. She wore a hooded jacket, her face hidden, her posture cautious. She scanned the area. No guards, no vehicles, just the faint hum of machinery beyond the fence. Then she saw a figure step out from the shadows. Right on time, Serena Voss said, her lips curling into a small, satisfied smile. Ava's stance stiffened. You're the one who called. I am, Serena said. And you're exactly who I hoped would show. Ava crossed her arms. You have 5 minutes. Serena motioned toward a table under a flickering light. Blueprints and surveillance photos of Titan Edge lay scattered across it. I know you worked there. I also know you were fired, humiliated in front of hundreds of people. Serena began. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here because Titan Edge is a front. Victoria Steele has been laundering millions through shell contracts disguised as innovation funding. My team plans to expose her, but we need someone who knows the building's internal systems. Cleaning staff access every room, every corridor. You know the layout better than anyone. Ava's brow furrowed. You're planning a hack. A data extraction, Serena corrected. We're not interested in stealing, we're interested in revealing. Publicly. But to get to the mainframe, we need someone who can get us past the lower floors undetected. Ava studied her, her instincts screaming caution. And what's in it for me? Freedom, Serena said simply. You help us expose her, and you walk away clean, with enough money to disappear for good. Silence. Only the drip of rain off the metal roof. Ava finally shook her head. I'm not your weapon. Serena smirked. No, you're not. But you're someone who hates injustice. And right now, Victoria Steel is untouchable. Unless someone levels the field. Ava hesitated. For the first time, Serena saw conflict flicker across her face. I'll think about it, Ava said finally. Good, Serena replied. But don't think too long. The window closes in a week. As Ava turned to leave, Serena's voice followed her into the fog. For what it's worth, I think you were right to walk away from the military. They never deserved someone like you. Ava didn't respond. She just kept walking. Her mind a battlefield of instincts and memories she thought she'd buried. That night, back in her apartment, Ava sat in silence. On her coffee table, a folded newspaper headline caught her eye. Titan Edge's new project promises to revolutionize data control. Beneath it, a photo of Victoria Steel smiling beside city officials. Ava's hand clenched around the paper. She didn't believe in fate, but somehow, fate had found her anyway. The next morning in Atlanta dawned humid and gray, rain streaking the glass facade of the Atheron Dynamics Tower. Police cars still surrounded the building, their blue lights flashing through the drizzle like warning beacons. Inside, detectives combed through the remnants of chaos. Bullet casings, shattered glass, overturned chairs. Reporters clustered at the barricades, shouting questions that went unanswered. The world already knew the basics. Armed takeover thwarted. CEO and staff rescued. But they didn't know who had done it. Because when the police had stormed the top floors, the hostages were safe, the attackers incapacitated, and no one could explain how. Naomi Green was gone. In a quiet part of the city, far from the flashing lights and headlines, Naomi sat in a small diner nursing a mug of coffee. Her knuckles were bandaged, and her dark curls were pulled back in a loose bun. The place smelled of bacon grease and old memories. She watched the rain bead on the window, her reflection faint against the gray sky. It had been years since she'd felt that kind of rush, the razor-edge focus, the clean clarity that came when everything depended on her instincts. She hadn't wanted to go back there, but she hadn't had a choice. The bell above the door chimed. Detective Carla Ruiz, a woman with a steady gaze and a trench coat still damp from the rain, approached the booth. She sat down across from Naomi without waiting to be invited. I figured I'd find you here, Ruiz said. You always come here when you need to think. Naomi gave a small, humorless smile. You've been keeping tabs on me, detective? Ruiz shrugged. After what happened last night, everyone's trying to find you. The feds, Homeland Security, even the mayor's office. But me, she leaned in. I just want to know how you did it. Naomi sipped her coffee. I cleaned up a mess. Ruiz frowned. A mess? You took down a dozen heavily armed men. Alone. They were ex-military, Naomi. You don't clean up something like that unless you've had serious training. Naomi's eyes flicked to the window. That's all behind me. Yeah, Ruiz said softly. But it has a habit of catching up. Meanwhile, back at Atheron Dynamics, Evelyn Pierce sat in her office, her hands still shaking as she signed documents. The board had convened an emergency meeting that morning, and the fallout was immediate security overhauls, PR statements, risk management. But Evelyn wasn't thinking about profits. She was thinking about the janitor. When she'd first met Naomi, she'd barely noticed her. Another quiet worker who kept to herself. But last night, Evelyn had seen something she couldn't forget. The precision, the courage, the way Naomi had moved through danger like she'd been born in it. It wasn't luck that saved them. It was skill. The kind of skill Evelyn couldn't even comprehend. Her assistant, a nervous young intern named Ryan, entered the room. "Ms. Pierce, the detectives want your statement again. They said it's urgent." Evelyn nodded absently. "Tell them I'll be right there." As Ryan turned to leave, Evelyn added, "And Ryan, find out everything you can about Naomi Green. Employment history, references, anything." Ryan hesitated. Ms. Pierce. HR says there's barely anything in her file. No previous address, no next of kin, no emergency contact. It's like she just appeared 2 years ago. Evelyn's pen froze mid-stroke. "Then find out where she came from," she said quietly. At that same moment, Naomi's phone buzzed on the table. A message flashed across the screen. "Unknown number." She hesitated before opening it. "We're not finished, Sergeant Green. You took my crew. Now I'm taking something of yours." Naomi's blood ran cold. The title, Sergeant. Only someone from her past would know that name. Ruiz noticed the change in her expression. "What is it?" Naomi slid the phone across the table. Ruiz read the message and frowned. "You think one of the men from last night survived?" Naomi shook her head. "No, they were just muscle. This is someone else." Ruiz studied her. "You used to be military, didn't you?" Naomi didn't answer. The detective leaned back. "You're not the only one with connections, Green. I checked. Special Recon Group, Classified Ops. You dropped off the grid 5 years ago. And now someone from that world is back in yours." Naomi's eyes narrowed. "You shouldn't have done that, Ruiz." Ruiz held her gaze. "Maybe not. But if someone's coming after you, I need to know what we're up against." Naomi looked out the window again, watching the rain wash over the city. "You're up against ghosts," she said quietly. "The kind that don't stay buried." That night, Evelyn's apartment in Midtown glowed softly with city lights. She sat on her balcony, a glass of wine untouched beside her. Her phone buzzed with messages from the board, the media, her lawyers. She ignored them all. She was thinking about Naomi, about how the woman had risked everything for a company that had treated her like she was invisible. A knock sounded on the door. Evelyn turned, expecting her assistant, but froze when she saw the figure in the doorway. Naomi stood there, rain-soaked and silent. "How did you find me?" Evelyn asked, stepping forward. Naomi gave a faint smile. "You forget. I used to clean your office. You're not as private as you think." Evelyn let out a nervous laugh, half relieved, half startled. "You should be on every news channel in the country right now. The hero janitor who saved Atheron." Naomi's expression darkened. "Hero? That's not what I am." Evelyn studied her. "Then what are you, Naomi?" Naomi looked past her, toward the skyline glowing in the mist. "A mistake that refuses to stay buried." Evelyn frowned. "You got a message, didn't you? Someone's threatening you." Naomi hesitated. "It's not just me they're after. It's this company. They wanted it for a reason, and Victor wasn't working alone." Evelyn's brow furrowed. "Victor, the man who led the attack. He worked for someone higher, a man named Raul Vargas. Ex-operative, black market connections. runs covert acquisitions across the southern corridor. Naomi's eyes hardened. He's the one sending the messages. Evelyn's heartbeat quickened. Then why come here? Why warn me? Because Vargas doesn't just want your company. He wants the tech buried in your R&D division, Project Helios. Evelyn froze. Only a handful of executives knew about Helios, a prototype AI system designed for predictive logistics. How do you know about that? Naomi gave a thin smile. Because I helped design its early framework. Years before I was your janitor. Evelyn's breath caught. You worked in defense research. Until I saw what they were using it for, Naomi said. Helios wasn't meant to move products, it was built to move weapons. Predictive combat analysis, real-time threat response. And Vargas wants it back. The room fell silent except for the hum of rain against glass. Evelyn's mind spun. If that's true, then he's going to come after the data vault. Naomi nodded. He will. And when he does, you'll need to decide whether to protect your company or yourself. Across town, a man watched through the scope of a rifle from the top of a parking structure. His earpiece crackled. Target located. Green and Pierce are together. The voice on the other end rasped. Then make sure they don't leave that apartment alive. The man adjusted his aim, finger tightening on the trigger. And then a flicker of movement caught his eye. A silhouette on the neighboring rooftop. Before he could react, a dart hissed through the air and struck him in the neck. His body went limp, collapsing soundlessly. Naomi lowered the tranquilizer rifle, eyes sharp and calm. She'd seen the glint of the scope from Evelyn's balcony reflection. She turned to Evelyn. Pack a bag. We're leaving. Evelyn's voice trembled. Leaving? Where? Somewhere they won't find us, Naomi said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Because this isn't over. It's just starting. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets of Atlanta slick and glistening under the sodium lights. Neon reflections shimmered across puddles as Naomi Green and Evelyn Pierce drove through the near-empty roads in a nondescript black SUV Naomi had borrowed from a private lot near the diner. Evelyn sat tense in the passenger seat, still processing everything. The night felt unreal, a haze of adrenaline, fear, and disbelief. Only hours ago, she'd been the queen of Atheron Dynamics. Now she was a fugitive beside the woman she'd fired without a thought. Naomi's hands were steady on the wheel. She drove with the same precision she did everything else. Scanning mirrors, checking exits, anticipating every possible ambush. Finally, Evelyn broke the silence. Where are we going? Naomi kept her eyes on the road. Safe house outside the city. Old friend owns it. Evelyn let out a humorless laugh. You have friends who run safe houses? You really were never just a janitor. Naomi didn't answer. Her focus was absolute. After an hour, they reached a warehouse district on the outskirts of the city. A stretch of abandoned buildings and chain-link fences reclaimed by kudzu and time. Naomi turned down a side road, headlights off. She stopped in front of a rusted metal gate and stepped out into the night air. She keyed in a code on a weathered keypad hidden beneath a false panel. The gate slid open silently. Inside, the building looked derelict from the outside. But once Naomi led Evelyn through a narrow corridor and into a concealed space behind a rolling shelf, the truth became clear. The hidden room was stark and efficient. Cinder-block walls, tactical gear neatly stored in lockers, a small kitchenette, and a workstation filled with surveillance monitors and encrypted equipment. Evelyn's eyes widened. This is military grade. Naomi shrugged. Leftover from another life. She powered on one of the monitors, pulling up satellite imagery and police communications. The screen showed reports of unidentified perpetrators, connected to the Atheron siege. Raul Vargas's name hadn't surfaced, which meant he was still controlling the narrative. Evelyn paced the small space. You said Vargas wants Project Helios. But why now? The prototype's sealed in our server core. It's worthless without the full architecture. Naomi looked at her. Unless someone inside Atheron already gave it to him. Evelyn froze. You're saying there's a mole? Naomi nodded. There had to be. Victor's men had the floor plans, security schedules, access codes. Someone fed them that. Evelyn sank into a chair, her hands trembling. God, half my board could have done it. Everyone's chasing a bigger bonus. Naomi studied her quietly. Money's not the only motive. What do you mean? Evelyn asked. Naomi turned away, her expression shadowed. Sometimes it's payback. At that same moment, miles away in a dimly lit warehouse near the Chattahoochee River, Raul Vargas sat at a long steel table, his scarred hands clasped loosely before him. He was a broad-shouldered man in his early 50s, his skin the color of dark coffee, his eyes sharp as glass. A faint scar ran from his jawline to his temple, a souvenir from a life of violence. Across from him stood one of his lieutenants, a lean woman named Sophia Trent, her blonde hair tied back in a tight braid. She's alive, Sophia said. Naomi Green. She's protecting the CEO. Vargas's eyes narrowed. Of course she is. That's what she does. Protects people who don't deserve it. He stood, walking toward a map pinned to the wall. A layout of Atheron dynamics with red circles marking key points. Do you know what she took from me, Sophia? He said quietly. 3 years ago, she led a mission in Bogota. My operation. She burned my shipment, killed my men, and vanished. I lost everything, until I learned where she was hiding. Sophia shifted uneasily. Sir, the heat from the Atheron job is already bad. Going after her again. Vargas spun, his voice like steel. We finish what she started. She took my freedom, my empire. Now I'll take hers. He turned to a monitor, where a digital rendering of the Helios prototype glowed faintly. This system, if I control it, I can predict law enforcement movements before they act. I'll be untouchable. Sophia hesitated. And Green? Vargas smiled, cold and slow. Green is my unfinished business. Back at the safe house, Naomi sat cross-legged on the floor, disassembling and cleaning a sidearm while Evelyn watched from the table. Were you ever scared? Evelyn asked quietly. Naomi looked up, surprised. When you were, whoever you were before all this. Naomi gave a small, tired smile. Fear's part of the job. You learn to move through it. Evelyn studied her. You talk about it like it's still who you are. Naomi's hands paused for a moment on the gun slide. Maybe it is. Evelyn leaned forward. Why did you hide it? Why take a job as a janitor? Naomi's gaze hardened slightly. After my last mission, I lost people. My team. We were sent in on bad intel, someone sold us out. I was the only one who made it out. After that, I didn't want to fight anymore. I just wanted to disappear. Evelyn's voice softened. And cleaning offices was how you disappeared. Naomi gave a faint smile. Nobody looks twice at a janitor. Before Evelyn could respond, an alarm on the console blared softly. Naomi jumped up, scanning the feed. A red indicator pulsed across the map overlay. What is it? Evelyn asked. Naomi's face went cold. They found us. Outside, the hum of approaching engines broke the stillness. Black SUVs rolled to a stop on the street, their lights off. Figures in tactical gear spilled out, moving with military precision. Naomi grabbed Evelyn's arm. Back exit now. They sprinted through the narrow corridor toward a reinforced door. Naomi keyed in a code, pushed Evelyn through, and grabbed a duffel from the rack as bullets punched through the walls behind them. The two women emerged into a narrow alleyway lit only by the flickering light of a broken sign. Naomi returned fire, taking down two shadows with precise, economical shots. "Car!" she barked. Evelyn scrambled toward the SUV parked at the far end. Naomi fired a few more rounds, then dove behind the wheel. The tires screeched as they sped off, bullets sparking off the rear bumper. Evelyn gasped, clutching her seatbelt. "They knew exactly where we were." Naomi's jaw tightened. "That means they're tracking you." "Me?" Evelyn stared at her. "How?" Naomi reached over, pulled a sleek silver brooch from Evelyn's jacket, and crushed it in her fist. Inside was a tiny blinking transmitter. "Looks like someone at your company gave them a direct line," Naomi said grimly. Evelyn's face went pale. "Who would do that?" Naomi didn't answer. She was already running through possible scenarios, her brain working on instinct and experience. Someone had betrayed Evelyn from inside. Someone who wanted Helios in Vargas's hands. They drove south for hours, until the city lights gave way to the rural darkness of the Georgia backroads. When they finally stopped, it was at a small motel off Highway 41, half swallowed by vines and humidity. Inside the dimly lit room, Naomi checked the blinds, the locks, and the exits before setting her gun on the table. Evelyn collapsed on the bed, breathing hard. Naomi turned on a small radio jammer to block signals. "We'll be safe here for now." Evelyn nodded, eyes distant. "You think he'll stop?" Naomi's expression was unreadable. "No, he's just getting started." Hours later, when Evelyn finally drifted into a fitful sleep, Naomi sat by the window, watching headlights ghost by in the distance. She reached into her duffel, pulling out a worn photograph. A group of soldiers in desert fatigues, smiling in the blinding sun. She traced one face with her thumb, a man with dark skin and a gentle smile. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'll finish it, Daniel. I promise." Outside, thunder rumbled again across the horizon. The storm wasn't over, it was only circling back. The morning broke in streaks of pale gold across the cracked windows of the roadside motel. The storm had rolled east overnight, leaving behind a heavy stillness that made the air feel too thick to breathe. Naomi Green had been awake for hours. She sat at the small table, boots planted on the carpet. A map of the southeast spread before her, every road and county line marked in pencil. Across the room, Evelyn Pierce stirred beneath the thin motel blanket. Her blonde hair was tangled, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. She looked nothing like the immaculate CEO who used to stride through Atheron's glass halls. Naomi didn't look up as she spoke. "You dream loud." Evelyn blinked at her. "Nightmares." "Yeah," Naomi murmured. "They don't stop, but you get used to them." Evelyn sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. "Do you ever wonder why people like Vargas keep coming back? Why men like that never stay down?" Naomi's hands paused over the map. "Because people like me never finish the job." A knock at the door snapped both their heads up. Naomi motioned silently for Evelyn to stay put. She drew her weapon, crossed to the door, and checked the peephole. A familiar voice whispered, "It's Ruiz." Naomi exhaled in relief and opened the door. Detective Carla Ruiz slipped inside, rain still clinging to her coat. She carried a small duffel and a look that said she hadn't slept in days. "Nice place," Ruiz muttered, glancing around. "Guess you don't care about Yelp reviews." Naomi cracked the faintest smile. "You weren't followed?" Ruiz shook her head. "Took 3 detours. Vargas's people are crawling through half the city. Whatever he wants, he's not quitting." Evelyn stood, anxious. "You know about Vargas?" Ruiz set the duffel on the table. "I know he's buying friends in high places. One of my informants in City Hall says someone's been leaking your company's classified data to a shell corporation registered in Panama."
Guess whose name shows up on the paperwork? Evelyn's pulse quickened. Don't tell me. Ruiz nodded grimly. One of your own board members. Leonard Keene. Evelyn staggered back. Leonard? He's been with Atheron for 15 years. He's practically family. Naomi's voice was quiet but razor-sharp. He's the mole. Ruiz unzipped the duffel, revealing a stack of folders and a tablet. Financial transfers, encrypted emails, travel records. He met Vargas in Houston 6 months ago under an alias. Whatever they planned, it started long before the hostage crisis. Evelyn sank into the chair, her mind spinning. He was the one who pushed for Project Helios to go commercial. Said it would revolutionize logistics. All this time, he was selling us out. Naomi leaned over the table, scanning the files. We'll need proof strong enough to bury him. If we take Keene down publicly, Vargas loses his inside channel. Ruiz's eyes hardened. There's more. 2 hours ago, Keene called a press conference. He's blaming you, Evelyn. Says you staged the whole hostage crisis to inflate stock value and distract from accounting fraud. Evelyn's jaw dropped. He's turning the company against me. Classic misdirection, Naomi said. He knows we're on to him, so he's making you the scapegoat. Ruiz slid the tablet across. He's got the board in emergency session this afternoon. Once he controls the narrative, Vargas gets the tech. Naomi studied the time. Then we stopped that meeting. Evelyn looked up, incredulous. You mean go back? Naomi, they'll arrest me the second I step inside. Naomi's gaze didn't waver. Not if we expose him first. They left the motel an hour later. Ruiz drove. Naomi navigated. Evelyn sat in the back seat, replaying every conversation she'd ever had with Leonard Keene. Every dinner, every promise, every smile that now felt like poison. By noon, the downtown skyline reappeared. Shimmering, deceptive, familiar. Atheron Tower loomed ahead, guarded by police tape and security trucks. Ruiz parked 2 blocks away. If we're doing this, we do it fast. Keene's press conference starts in 40 minutes. Naomi opened the glove compartment, revealing forged ID badges and earpieces. We go in quiet. No attention. Evelyn frowned. You have fake credentials for my own company? Naomi allowed herself a half-smirk. You'd be amazed what janitors can access. Inside the tower's service elevator, the 3 women ascended in tense silence. The hum of the machinery echoed like a heartbeat. When the doors opened onto the executive floor, Naomi led them through a side corridor toward the conference wing. Her senses sharpened with every step. She could feel the trap waiting. They stopped outside the main boardroom. Voices murmured beyond the frosted glass. Keene's smooth baritone unmistakable. And as unfortunate as Ms. Pierce's choices were, he was saying, the company must move forward under stable leadership. Evelyn's eyes blazed. He's replacing me. Naomi pressed a finger to her lips. Not yet. Ruiz slipped a small device from her pocket. A data probe linked to the building's internal servers. She connected it to a wall port and watched a stream of code flash across her phone. I'm inside, Ruiz whispered. Give me 30 seconds and I'll have his encrypted emails mirrored. Naomi nodded, scanning the hallway. Make it 20. We've got company. A pair of uniformed security guards rounded the corner. Naomi stepped smoothly into their path, pretending to fumble a clipboard. Sorry, maintenance inspection, she said with disarming ease. Elevator sensors again. The guards barely glanced at her badge, old habit, before continuing on. As soon as they turned the corner, Ruiz signaled. Got it. Every file Keene sent Vargas, transfers, blueprints, everything. Naomi pulled the drive from the device and slipped it into her pocket. Then let's end this. She pushed open the boardroom door.
The boardroom fell silent as the door swung open. 12 men and women in tailored suits turned toward the intrusion, their screens glowing with spreadsheets and projections. At the head of the table sat Leonard Keene, immaculate in a navy suit, the smile of a man who had already decided how history would remember him. Evelyn Pierce, he said smoothly. I'm surprised you had the nerve to show up. Security was told you'd fled the country. Evelyn stepped into the light, chin high though her hands trembled. I built this company, Leonard. I'm not going to watch you sell it to a criminal. Keen's smile didn't waver. Big accusation. You have proof. Naomi moved beside her, calm as stone. Plenty. She dropped the flash drive onto the table. Ruiz closed the door behind them and flicked on a portable projector. Email chains appeared across the glass wall. Keen's coded correspondence with the shell company, financial transfers routed through Panama, Vargas's name buried in metadata. Gasps rippled through the room. One board member stood up. Leonard, what the hell is this? Keen's charm cracked. Fabrications. You think I'd risk everything for some ghost mercenary? Naomi crossed her arms. Then maybe you should tell them about Houston. About the night you met Raul Vargas and promised him the Helios prototype in exchange for wiping your gambling debts. The color drained from his face. Evelyn's voice cut through the tension, low and steady. You didn't just betray me, Leonard. You betrayed every person who trusted this company. Keen straightened suddenly, the confidence of a cornered man turning to desperation. You have no idea who you're dealing with, he hissed. Vargas doesn't forgive. You think exposing me will stop him? You just signed your own death warrants. He slammed a fist on the table and lunged for the flash drive, but Naomi was faster. She caught his wrist, twisted, and drove him to his knees with effortless precision. The motion was clean, practiced, terrifyingly efficient. The rest of the board backed away. Ruiz produced her badge. Detective Ruiz, Atlanta PD. Mr. Keen, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and aiding a domestic terror act. Keen laughed through clenched teeth. You can't arrest what's already gone. Naomi frowned. What does that mean? The answer came seconds later. The building lights flickered. Screens went black. Ruiz's radio crackled. Static. Then a voice not meant to be there. Green. Always 2 steps ahead. Let's see how far you get now. Naomi's stomach dropped. Vargas. He'd hacked the tower's grid. A low hum began beneath the floor, servers overloading. Then the distant pop of an explosion echoed from below. Move! Naomi shouted. He's wiping the data and the evidence. She yanked Keen upright. Where's the remote server? Keen grimaced. Sub-basement. But you'll never. Naomi silenced him with a glare. We'll see. She tossed the flash drive to Ruiz. Get that to a safe line. Back up everything off-site. Ruiz nodded and ran for the elevator. Evelyn followed Naomi to the emergency stairwell as alarms screamed through the corridors. Smoke met them halfway down. Naomi covered Evelyn's mouth with a sleeve and pushed through the haze. The floor below blazed with electrical fire, sprinklers hissing uselessly. Through the chaos they reached the data core door, steel, heat-warped, keypad dead. Naomi drew a multi-tool from her belt, bypassed the locking mechanism, and kicked the door open. Inside, rows of servers blinked frantically as files erased themselves. On the central monitor, a countdown ticked from 1 minute and 30 seconds. Vargas planted a burned script, Naomi muttered. He's killing Helios so no one else can have it. Evelyn stepped beside her, coughing. Can you stop it? Not all of it, but I can pull the root key. She tore open a casing, sparks flying, and jammed a portable drive into the port. 30 seconds. Through the open doorway came footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. Keen had slipped free somewhere above. He appeared in the glow, a pistol in hand, hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. End of the line, he sneered. Vargas promised me a clean exit if I brought him you, Green. Naomi rose slowly, shielding Evelyn with her body. You really think he keeps promises? Keen's finger tightened on the trigger. He only needs one of you alive. A single shot cracked, but not from his gun. He froze, eyes wide, then collapsed, the weapon skittering across the floor. Behind him stood Detective Ruiz, smoke curling from her sidearm. Couldn't let him ruin my timing, she said, breathless. Got your drive. Naomi pulled it free, data still streaming. The timer hit 0. The monitors flared white, then died. Go, she shouted. The 3 women sprinted up the stairwell as a concussive blast tore through the lower levels. Fire rolled up the walls like liquid light. They burst onto the rooftop moments before the backup generators detonated. Ruiz stumbled, coughing. Naomi dragged her toward the edge where a maintenance ladder descended to the adjoining parking structure. Evelyn followed, hair whipping in the rising heat. Halfway down, another explosion shook the tower. Shards of glass rained past them, the skyline glowing orange. Sirens wailed below. They reached the ground just as emergency crews arrived. Naomi handed Ruiz the smoldering drive. That's everything Vargas wanted. Get it somewhere safe. Ruiz nodded. And you? Naomi looked toward the burning tower, its reflection rippling in her dark eyes. I'm going to finish this. Hours later, Evelyn sat in an unmarked van at the edge of a police perimeter, wrapped in a blanket. Reporters shouted questions from behind the barricade. Ruiz joined her, bandaged but alive. The data proves Keen's link to Vargas. The feds are already moving. You'll get your company back. Evelyn stared at the flames consuming Atheron Tower. It's not about the company anymore. Ruiz followed her gaze. You mean her? Naomi was gone. Disappeared into the smoke the moment the sirens arrived. Ruiz said, You think she'll ever stop running? Evelyn's voice was quiet. Not until Vargas is dead. That night, hundreds of miles away on a deserted coastal highway, Naomi parked beneath the ruins of an old pier. She opened the trunk, revealing a small cache of weapons, the portable drive, and a single scrap of paper bearing a set of coordinates. She looked out at the dark horizon. Somewhere beyond it waited Raul Vargas, her unfinished war. Naomi tucked the photograph of her fallen team back into her jacket and whispered to the waves, One last mission. Then she drove into the night. The edge of the roof trembled beneath Naomi and Vargas, the wind tearing at their clothes as the city stretched far below. She felt his weight press her backward, his grip like iron. Let go! Naomi shouted, planting her feet against the gravel rooftop. Her hand shot up, grabbing the metal railing behind her, twisting it to leverage against his weight. Vargas laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You think you can stop me? Not think, Naomi growled. No. With a sudden, practiced motion, Naomi pivoted, twisting her body. Vargas lost balance for a split second, enough for her to shove him backward. He stumbled, claws grabbing at her jacket, teeth bared in rage. Evelyn fired a shot from the detonator-holding hand, not to kill but to startle him. The round pinged off the metal deck. Vargas yelped and flailed. Naomi seized the moment. Using his momentum, she rolled him over the roof edge, grabbing his arm in a death grip as he dangled hundreds of feet above the city. Now, she shouted. Evelyn stepped forward, pressing the emergency latch on the roof's fire ladder. The ladder uncoiled, swinging close enough for Vargas to grab. But Naomi held firm, muscles straining, sweat stinging her eyes. You won't win, Vargas hissed, voice trembling. Even if you survive this, my empire. You're done, Naomi interrupted. It's over. With a sharp twist, she dislocated his grip, letting him drop to a safety net deployed by rooftop construction crews earlier. Naomi had coordinated this with Ruiz during the chaos below. Vargas landed with a grunt, trapped but alive, struggling against the netting. Naomi didn't waste a second. She cuffed him to a steel column while Evelyn and Ruiz secured the roof. Below, police sirens blared, and tactical units swarmed the perimeter, rushing in to take control of the captured criminal. Resolution. Hours later, the city skyline reflected the soft orange glow of dawn. Naomi, Evelyn, and Ruiz stood on a quiet balcony. The chaos of the previous day reduced to rubble and news headlines. Evelyn exhaled, her hands still trembling. "I can't believe it's finally over." Naomi's face was calm, almost serene. "It's never truly over. But today, we finished a chapter."
Ruiz smiled fondly.
"You two pulled off something impossible. The city owes you." Evelyn glanced at Naomi, gratitude flooding her expression. I don't even know how to thank you." Naomi shook her head. "Don't. Just live. Make sure what we fought for matters." For the first time in years, Evelyn felt free. Not just from Vargas and Keene, but from the fear that had shadowed her every step. Epilogue. Weeks later, Atheron Industries began its recovery. Leonard Keene faced federal charges for conspiracy, fraud, and aiding a criminal enterprise. Raul Vargas remained in custody, his empire dismantled. Naomi Green was gone from the city, her presence a whispered legend among law enforcement and corporate circles alike. Evelyn resumed leadership of Atheron, her perspective forever changed by the quiet janitor who had been anything but. One evening, standing atop the Atheron Tower balcony, Evelyn gazed out over the city, now alive with lights and life. She spoke softly to the wind, almost as if Naomi could hear her. "Thank you." Far away, Naomi drove through a coastal highway, the sea stretching endlessly beside her. She glanced at the portable drive with Vargas's blueprints, now in safe hands. There were always missions, always messes to clean, but for now she allowed herself a moment of peace. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the waves gold, and Naomi Green, unassuming janitor turned hero, disappeared into the night, ready for whatever came next.